So today we'll look at concept of device drivers and we'll see how it works, right? Okay. And please feel free to ask questions in between. I have taken this contents of presentation mainly from two sources, rather three sources, one more, I guess. But these two books are very good. Most of the stuff has come from Tannenbaum's book. Okay, so what we have studied so far is the following, that in a computer in general, we can think of in terms of controlled data path, okay, which is nothing but CPU, okay, input, output, and memory. Okay, memory we usually think in terms of RAM. And then, of course, we have hierarchy of memory like hard disk and so on. All right. So two important aspects are input and output, because even on your laptop, if you want to do anything meaningful, right? You know, for example, you want to take a printout, or you want to watch a movie, or you want to see whatever you are typing on a screen, that's done all through IO. Okay, without IO, usability of a device becomes very limited, like an embedded system in a car, you know, that controls engine. It's fine, there is a utility of that, but interaction to a computer with human beings happen through IO. Okay, and these are again the same. It has 5 parts: memory, data path, control, input, and output, as we have seen. And this diagram we have seen, which defines a boundary, protection boundary for OS. And note that IO happens in protected zone. Okay, all right. So this we have studied. Anything where we have to do writing onto disk, or printing on printer, or doing LAN or internet, okay, whenever data has to go out of computer or CPU, ALU, etc., etc., okay, then IO is required. For example, you connect beyond your computer, on a port your computer connect a drive, hard disk drive, or a flash drive, right? Then it's IO. You connect onto USB port, a printer, then it's IO. There's a LAN card or Wi-Fi card, okay, then again there is IO, and so on. Okay, all right. And we have seen the concept of buses, and we have seen that PCI bus in general is used in laptop, desktop, and you know, kind of personal computers. Okay, this is not very high performance, but has been used, and this has evolved into PCI Express bus. Okay, so this is what we have studied in brief. And then we came to this diagram, wherein we see that every device has a device controller. Okay, it's a built into it. Okay, it's when we say controller, it is just not mechanical thing, it's a electronics thing. Okay, so it will have some processor and then some computing capability, but this controller controls the device. Okay, operation of the device. All right, then we discuss in brief about this diagram, wherein we have almost covered in our course. Okay, for example, we have covered process management, memory management, we have studied earlier. File system, top level, we have seen what file is and so on. You would have covered networking. I remember I gave you a lecture on local area network and so on. Okay, and then we have, of course, I mean, with the virtual memory, we have studied memory manager. Okay, but look at something that's below here at this point, or in device, right? There's something that's communicating with underneath devices, right? Like this one, or here, like block devices are like like your hard disk, okay, which essentially are block devices, okay, and then there must be some device driver or some software that will control operation of these devices. Okay, similarly there is a something to control operation of LAN, right? So there has got to be device manager, and device manager interacts with a driver on top. So we'll come to that concept. So we'll study these topics. We'll start with characteristic of IO devices, then why we need device drivers, basic concept, how do they function, then what is the use of interrupt handler, and there's something called beyond device driver. In kernel we have device independent software that gives uniform interface to higher to users and other kernel routines. Okay, and then we see what is the role of user space IO software, which is libraries in IO and so on, right? So these are the topics we'll cover today. So we made I may take more than 60 minutes, so please feel free to tell me when you want to take break. Okay, I will go a little faster because all these we have covered earlier somewhere or other, and if you are not able to grasp it or you have question, please feel free to ask me. Okay, all right. So we have seen in last lecture that IO devices have lot of variation. Okay, they have very different kind of characteristics, right? Okay, we have seen in terms of speed, the speed of mouse versus speed of say LAN driver or LAN card. It could be huge difference, could be maybe a million times higher speed for say high speed LAN versus a mouse. Okay, so devices vary in characteristics, also they vary in speed. So OS should be very efficiently be able to manage all that, and some of these characteristics are like data transfer mode, like character oriented devices or block oriented device. Like block oriented devices are like this. Okay, because disks are partitioned to sector, but logical unit that's transferred from hardware, there's a disk, to kernel is a block. Okay, blocks are basically abstraction of sectors, right? So multiple sector may form a block. Okay, then access method could be sequential, like in case of modem. Okay, or LAN, for example. Okay, do you get byte streams? Okay, or it could be random, right? In CD-ROM, you can go to a particular sector and read from there. Okay, right. So in case of modem, for example, data, you cannot scroll back to data that came some time back, right? So essentially, is whatever data you're getting, you have to just process it. Okay, and then transfer from device to system could be synchronous or asynchronous, and corresponding device are tape or keyboard, for example. Keyboard, because whenever you type, data has got to be available, and so there's no synchrony out there, right? Because that your typing and so on is asynchronous. Similarly, devices can be dedicated or shareable, and then the device operate at different speeds, right? And there are various characteristics associated with speed. For example, latency, seek time. So some of these we'll study when we'll study hard disk. Okay, seek time essentially to position head to a particular place, then transfer rate, and then delay between operations. And similarly, so the last point is that when we are, what is the direction of data? For example, data transfer. For example, we can only read. Okay, then data transfer direction is just from disk to kernel, or write, this opposite of that, or read and write. Okay, and corresponding devices could be different. So now why we are discussing about it? Because devices have very different kind of characteristics. But at the top level, we have to handle it almost in similar manner. Okay, so now we have to put these devices into certain categories, because every day new device may come, but it should belong to one of the few categories. Otherwise, the way the complexity of handling new device becomes too much for OS. And OS cannot be modified whenever a device manufacturer comes out with a new device, right? Okay, so Linux has come out, okay, release has come out, and then independently a manufacturer comes out with a device that is very peculiar in nature, say a robo, for example. Okay, and then it requires altogether different operations, which through OS you cannot. A generic OS, for example, like Linux, you cannot operate. Okay, so in general, we'll have to say that the devices fall into certain categories. Okay, and that simplifies the design of OS, higher level layers of OS. So we can say devices can be grouped by OS into following categories: block IO like disk, etc. Character IO like we have seen keyboard, or network sockets, clock and timers. Okay, so we'll focus only on the first two. Okay, block devices we have seen is it gives abstraction of array of storage blocks. Okay. Okay, here we will assume that minimum unit that can be transferred between disk and higher end, this kernel, is a block. Okay, all right, so the commands include read, write, seek, etc. While character devices are keyboard, printers, text console, serial ports, etc. And abstraction of this is stream of characters, and then operation that it support is get, put, open, close, read, write, etc. Similarly, here can be open and close. And then we have network devices like where abstraction is data packet, and there are other classes of devices like USB, SCSI, FireWire, etc. Now the question is that can we capture a peculiarity of a device by these operations only? Okay, so ultimately these operations will be available, but not necessarily exactly the same for different classes of devices. But block devices may have some more, for example, instructions. For example, seek operation may not be required in character device, right? So we can say that in general a class of operations are available for these devices, and a new device when comes up has got to map into these kind of devices that OS knows about. Okay, all right. Okay, which can be block devices, character devices, network devices, and some other categories. All right, any question up to this point?
No, sir.
Okay. Okay, now let's understand why do we need device drivers. We know that at top, you know, at the user level or even at kernel level, top and the kernel level, it wants to simplify life, right? It does not want to, you know, OS cannot change whenever a new device comes up, right? Okay, so it has got to have certain commands or whatever syscalls comes from top. Now number of those syscalls has got to be the same, whether read, write, seek, or whatever, right? At the bottom you have devices which have different characteristics, and new devices also keep coming in, right? And we have to somehow bridge the gap. So we can see this is a kernel IO structure. Okay, so we have part of the kernel which will do a lot of other functions. Okay, and then we have kernel IO subsystem, a part of kernel that handles IO. Okay, note that it is common for every device underneath. Okay. All right. So I will, okay. Okay, now let's look at why do we need device drivers. So we have, these are the generic or a standard set of functions. Okay, like IO subsystem and kernel is very generic set of functions it does, right? Okay, and it gives a uniform interface to users on top. And then at the bottom, which shown as in gray color here within this blue rectangle, is very device specific functions. Okay, for example, keyboard is different from mouse, is different from PCI bus, is different from LAN device, A2.2.11 device, which is Ethernet device. USB could be Wi-Fi, could be some other. Okay, now each one has a peculiarity, and each one also has a device controller which is built into the device. Okay, all right. Okay, so now this is common and this is very peculiar for each device. Okay, each device controller will also be slightly different because although it's very similar to each other, but depends on the device, because lower end of this device controller would be very different for each. But top end, top end of device controller, what do we have? We have studied 3 registers, right? Okay, that each device will have. Okay, corresponding to command, data input and data output, etc. Okay, sorry, command status and data. Okay, very similar, right? So now the gap between the two is here, which is managed by device drivers. Okay, so now device driver understand the peculiarity of the device and manages it. For example, device driver which were used in case of hard disk knew how many tracks it has, how many and each track will have how many sectors, what is the configuration of that, what is the all capacity. Will also know about the speed of operation and so on and so forth, right? So everything it knows. Okay, and on top, for example, software will say read block number certain, say 5. So it will convert that block number, logical block number, into actual which sector and where exactly that block is, how many sector it consists of, and so on, right? And do the operation. Okay, now hard disk may continuously change. I mean, it's improving a lot, right? The capacity of hard disk is continuously changing. They are becoming more efficient and more intelligent, and more functions are coming in, capacity is increasing, and so on and so forth, right? When, say for example, Seagate comes out with new hard disk, then all these layers on top cannot change because OS has released. Release is there, right? And then OS doesn't care whether Seagate's device really fits into this or not. Okay, so what will happen? The company that's making hard disk will also create a device driver corresponding to peculiarities of the hard disk. Okay, so it will on top, it has the same interface, while underneath here this operation will differ. Okay, any question? All right, so now let's get into details. So device drivers are actually black boxes to hide details of hardware devices from layer on top. Okay. So they use standardized calls from top independent of device drivers. It means something that's available on top, it's kind of standardized. Here, or all right. Okay. It maps or converts standard calls that comes on the top to device specific operations. Okay, like for example, in case of hard disk, we have seen, reading, it says read some block number. That has to correspond to actual physical specification and some operations in order to do that, right? So that simplified command from the top to detailed set of operations are done by device driver. Okay. So now whenever a device manufacturer comes out with a new device, it has to develop its own device driver. So they can be developed separately from rest of the kernel and can be plugged in. Now we can plug in normally most of the time. For example, I have a printer at home and then it's a laser printer. So I have got the device driver from the company website and it's there now plugged into my OS. Okay, so whenever I run it, it uses the device driver at runtime. Okay, right. All right. So device driver hides the difference between device controller and IO subsystem of the kernel. What is IO subsystem? Something that's here. I will read little more about it later. So IO system calls that comes from the top, like read or write or whatever, encapsulates the behavioral device in few generic classes and hide the difference between the application, right? That we have seen. Okay, on top, it's visible, only few set of operations are available corresponding to different classes of device. That's it. Okay, so when OS releases, when new release comes, it has just well-defined set of classes for which IO can be done. Of course, it benefits manufacturers, right? Okay. Because whenever new device comes, it has to come out with new device driver. Now the question that I have is, for example, a new release of a printer comes, a printer by say HP comes, okay, a laser printer, color laser printer with new features and so on comes. Do they have to make a device driver for Linux separately and separately for Windows, separately for some other operating system, say Android and so on? Do they have?
Yes, sir.
Yes, that's right. So there's the headache of device device companies to create those device drivers for the operating system to which they want to have interaction with. Okay, all right. So I'm repeating the same thing again and again. So please let me know if you don't understand still. So device driver accept the abstract read and write and other requests from device independent software above it and converts it into detailed instructions for operation. Okay. So now this is just extension of what we have discussed. The number of device registers and nature of the command vary radically from device to device. Okay. See, we have studied in the last class. Of course, some things we have not studied about, three methods of interaction. Possibly we'll do it if time permits. That is through polling. We have seen that. Polling means that see the status of register, status register continuously. So CPU will a process running and continuously checks until a status changes. Second is interrupt driven, wherein a device interrupts when operation is over. And third is DMA. Okay, so these three we have studied in computer architecture course. But we will, if time permits, we'll repeat that. We are supposed to do it in the last class. Okay, nevertheless. Okay, so now these, so we can in general think of a device has a controller. Okay, this is a device. Device may be printer or something. It may have electronics and mechanical part. Okay, it has basically some registers which are memory mapped in general. Okay, and these registers are data register where data can be input or output. You know, something file, for example, we want to print something, so data will come here. Then status. Okay, what is the status? The page has been printed or not? And third is command. What is to be done? Maybe printing, or maybe just printer may have to roll back or clean up or doing something or something. Okay, if it's printer, if it's a disk, then there can be a lot of commands, right? So these are the minimum three set of registers: data, status, and command. Now these, in fact, these registers can also vary. Okay, so for example, for my mouse driver, it can be different from the disk driver. Well, all right. Okay. Okay, so device driver knows all about these peculiarities. You know what command is to be given for printer to, for example, it's in a sleep state, to wake it up. Okay, what command is to be given to start printing? Or for example, a user gives a command to stop printing. What command should be given for printer to stop printing, and so on and so forth, right? Or maybe some printers have double-sided printing capabilities, so some command is to be given for that. And then, so all these peculiarities of a device is handled by device driver. All right. So device driver, can handle a single kind of device or a class of devices. For example, the printer that I have, it is a series of, one in the series of printers, right? One series of the printer. And I was not getting actual device driver for this printer because it's almost like 15 years old, 12 years old. Okay, and my device driver got corrupted. So I couldn't get for my operating system current version of OS. Okay, then I got another printer in the same class, which start with the same, is in the same series. Okay, and I use that, it worked. Okay, so is effectively means that the same device driver can be used for class of devices. All right, any question?
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah.
Sir, like for the disk case, we have a lot of information like
Pardon?
speed. Sir, for the disk, we have a lot of information like which speed, where on the cylinder we have the information. So
Yeah.
the hand, where is the hand, or which magnetic part has the data. But sir, we can memory map all these things now.
No, I don't understand what you say. Can you just please repeat?
Sir,
Your
I'm
voice.
saying for we have like a hard disk.
Mm-hmm.
We have like three pallets.
Three what?
Platters, three platters,
Yeah, platters. Okay.
and three arms, which is
Okay.
independently. So sir,
Okay.
we can memory map all the movements now. Like for address this arm should be there on this platter. So
Yeah.
sir,
Yeah.
we can make it in the hardware now. So sir, we don't have to tell the software
Yeah. So
driver.
there is a number of ways to do it. First thing is that lot of this functionality of a device driver can be part of the hard disk. Then device driver might be lightweight, right? In the hard disk itself, you can put a kind of controller which is very intelligent, or it can be done by device driver. All these, so who will know about it, right? Where on top you will say block number, whatever is a linear block number address. Conversion into which platter, which sector, and so on. That information has to be there somewhere.
So sir, if it is on the driver, then the computer has to do the work.
Now, what is a computer?
Sir, like our system.
No, yeah, your system. Which part will do that? Some software will do that, right?
Our
Then
system, if it's on the if it's in the device itself, then people don't have to do. It's just
yeah, device itself can possibly do little bit of it. Okay, but not everything, because then see what may also happen is that for different devices, again it has to interface with the top with the same commands, set of commands, right?
yes, sir.
Okay, so I mean, it's just question of where do you want to put it.
Yeah.
All right, and it has to be also part of, it has to be in kernel space. It cannot be, of course, lightweight OS are trying to do it in a user space, but all this, note that is comes under kernel space. So all right, so as a result of that, it has to be somewhere.
And like in the case of NVMe, so sir, NVMe has this controller which takes all the information where it is putting the data.
Which has a controller? I'm not able to hear.
NVMe drives. NVMe drives.
Okay.
So sir, these drives have controller, a separate controller. So sir, it takes care. We just have to say that I want to access this data. Then, like NVMe storage has like 4 flash drives, NAND flash. Then,
Yeah. So
uh,
these controllers, we will see in case of flash, for example, these controllers have lot of complexity and lot of software to manage things inside. Okay. Okay. So now question is that this device driver functionality is actually bridging the gap between peculiarity of device and the OS. So if you are putting all the functionality, almost say 70-80% function into device, then the device driver module which plugs into the OS will reduce.
yes, sir. Sir, it uses the PCI lane, so it doesn't need any driver. It just works out of the box.
It will always, it can be just simple stub or very simple thing, but it will has got to get instructions from somebody. Has now these interface, note that these interfaces have to be same for many devices, right? You cannot create a flash drive or hard disk separately and say that I will plug into OS and it will not require any device driver, right? Because ultimately a set, the interfaces to OS have got to be very similar on top, and somebody has to translate the commands coming from top to here to the device. Okay, so this layer can be very thin if you are putting intelligence into device, or it could be thick if the device is very mundane nature.
So there cannot be any driver-free device.
You say that there is no need for device driver then?
Then, sir, it will work like whatever CPU
So
is.
we will let's complete the discussion and then we'll come to this one, because there are other things that device driver can do.
Okay.
Okay, so you say if you mean to say there's no need of device drivers, they put everything, every intelligence into a device. Yes, you can do that, provided the higher layer will tell you only read, write, all these commands, right? And some other functionalities. If your device can accept it, then fine. And then that software of the device also has got to run in kernel mode. So these are the possible problems that can have. Okay, and again, a number of interfaces to top layer are just limited. So device has to then have interface which will match with something available at top. Well, let's just get into more discussion, and then we'll come back to your question. Okay. All right. So here, let's see in this one. Okay, we have for each device we have a controller device. Sorry, there is a controller, and then which interfaces with device driver, and then there is rest of OS. Okay. All right. So let's now look at the functionality of device drivers. Okay, and then note that there is an interrupt handler. So this is different layers, which is user IO software layer, device independent IO, operating system layer, device drivers, interrupt handler, and hardware. Okay, all right. When you ask this question that we don't need device drivers, actually you say that all this has got to be part of hardware. Fine. Let's see, let's look at it. Okay, so now the functions are as follows. On top half of device driver, it will access, it will get commands like close, read, write, IOCTL, or whatever. Okay, and then and so all this is kernel's interface to device drivers, something that comes from top. Okay, so top half will start IO to device and put thread into sleep until finished, and bottom half runs interrupt routine. It get inputs and transfer block of output, and then wakes up the top half of the driver. So let's look at the details here. So function of device driver is to initialize the device. Okay, printer may be in sleep state or hibernate state, right? So it will boot up. Okay, check if parameters on top are valid. Okay, now a command may be incorrect. Okay, the user, whatever parameters being sent on top by user may be incorrect, so it has to check that. Okay, if inputs are valid, the translation is done from abstract to concrete form. Say for example, convert the linear block number into head, track, sector, cylinder, etc. Okay, and then check if device in use. Say printer is already in use, or disk is already in use, then put the request in the queue. If idle, then hardware status is checked. Okay, and if it can accept the request. Okay, so this may again may be required. It may be required the device may be may restarted or something like that. And then if device is free, then actual control can begin, which means that now issuing sequence of commands. So now driver issues the command. Note that on top you are getting instructions like read or write with certain parameters, right? Okay, but this has to be converted into a specific command for the device, and different devices may have different commands. Okay, so driver writes command into device's control register, which is command register, and once command is accepted by device, the control issues more commands. Fine, and device driver waits until controller does work on it. Okay, all right. So And once controller completes the job, operation starts, say printing of page or reading of page from disk. Okay, then the controller sends an interrupt to device driver to wake it up. Okay, all right, the job is over. Now driver also checks for the error if there is any. For example, page got stuck or something, like printer jam happens or something like that, then passes it to something on top, user process, kernel process and user processes. From kernel it goes to user. If everything is all right, then the driver may have data to pass on to device independent software. Say for example a disk read, it will send the data on top, and then next request for execution. Okay, is it clear? So what will happen now? You put all the functionality into controller itself. All this function will go into controller, excepting that the read, write, etc. will come from top. Everything else will go into controller or device. So something that we can do as a common software, set of software for many devices now will be done by individual device. That's the one implication. All right, and second is that now it has to do operation of some sort of kernel to move the data upwards, because it's now directly interfacing with OS. Now, can it create also security holes? You think about it. What is a device at all, right? Device can also have a software. Device has software, right? Put a, some software that will possibly get an access to OS now. I don't. So there are a lot of problems that can happen if you directly allow, these generic commands to be executed in the device. Okay. All right. So now what is the need for interrupt handler here? So now we have seen this is iOS software stack. Okay, so we have user level software, then device independent software, which we call is rest of OS. Then we have device driver, and then we have interrupt handler. What does device driver do? So device drivers actually set the commands, put the data in case of writing or something. Okay, and and check the status. Okay, so device drivers do these things, right? And when the job is over, hardware will raise interrupt. Okay, and then device driver, so when it raises interrupt, what happens? Then yeah,
When interrupt the process will go.
yeah, interrupt processing will happen, right? It's a regular interrupt. Okay, so now whatever processor is doing will get attention that now iOS complete. But before that, it will, so it will restart execution of device driver. Okay, note that device driver, etc. is a software that will also run onto the same processor. Okay, so when interrupt comes, it will OS will wake up the device driver, and then device driver will start running, and then look at the status, etc., or data that has come in, and pass the data upwards, or do whatever is required to send the data upwards, or send the status upwards to user process. Okay, that's the role of interrupt handler, and we have studied this, right? So note that this interrupt handler is the same interrupt handler. It's not that it's a different interrupt handler, and the device driver also is the same similar kind of software as a user's process software, but this runs into kernel mode. Now the question then I can ask is that if it runs in kernel mode or safe mode, and if you write a device driver and it has some malicious elements, can it happen? Then how does OS protect itself? Does it mean that whenever somebody writes a device driver, OS companies have to validate it?
Yes, sir. Or sir, yeah, sir, they have to validate it. Cause sir, device.
And so many device drivers keep coming. Okay, whenever new device is there, so do you mean that Android or Microsoft or Apple will continuously do these things?
They can matlab, making the signature thing na sir. I have seen that the signature is not valid thing in.
What is signature? Signature doesn't work here. What do you mean by signature here, right? I mean, somebody has to do actually look at the code and see that it does not have a malicious element. Okay, so these are the problems, right? So that's the reason it is said that never take a device driver from random sources, right? So if I have to corrupt your OS, this has been a very common way of corrupting a system, right? So I can get access to your OS if I create a malicious device driver and you take it from my website and then use it. Okay, all right. So of course there are certain ways for computer manufacturers to check the validity of device drivers. Okay, so let's move on. Huh? So interrupt handlers we know, so we'll not get into it. Okay, so now let's come to something that is on top of device driver. Is there a need for something on top corresponding to IO? Yes or no? Can something from user level directly reach device driver? Nothing in between? Are there some functions that are needed by kernel before these system calls are processed in some way before reaching device drivers? Or when data movement is happening from user to device, something needs to be done with that data? Yes, there is a need, right? So what are these functions? First thing is that uniform interfacing with device drivers. Okay, we have discussed that there are only number of categories of devices that OS recognizes, because OS cannot create plugins or interfaces with any kind of device driver, because device drivers will keep coming in. Okay, and OS has got to define some interfaces, right? And this interface is unique for each device driver. Then OS cannot either new devices cannot be used or OS has to very regularly change. And user has to also continuously upgrade the OS corresponding to new devices every maybe few hours. Okay, so now we need, it means that in device driver top and the device driver which interface with OS has to be uniform for a class of device. Okay, so now look at this. Now this here provides interface to device driver. Okay, so note that these interfaces here we have shown only 3 types, but could be hundreds of types. And this interface here that is shown on top, you can see changes for every kind of device. And if you have very large number of devices, it means that OS has to provide this interfaces, right, which can be very peculiar for each device. So instead of that, OS says that I can provide only certain type of interfaces. Okay, and into that device, whatever device you develop, it has got to fit into one of these categories. Okay, and very new type of device comes in, of course, then there has got to be some interaction between the OS company and possibly device manufacturer, if it is there. Okay, so that's one use, right? All right, so basically device independent software provides unified interfacing for device drivers. That's first thing that we have to make sure. Now second thing is buffering. Okay, before data goes to a user, it can be buffered or it can be used directly by user process, right? First thing is that suppose the modem is connected, data is being passed to user, and the user process continuously read that. But this is not a preferred method, because if you have just one process doing all this, is fine. Okay, if there are multiple processes in the processor, then there is a need for buffering. Okay, now this buffering can be done at the user space, as we have seen in case of when we have studied file system. I mean, we have a buffer at user level, or it could be at the kernel level. Okay, or it could be at both kernel level as well as at user level. Okay, so here we have at the kernel level. Okay, there is also possibility that there can be multiple buffers. Okay, what is the need for multiple buffers? So 2 buffers. So when this transfer, for example, this buffer is full and transfer is happening, and during that time when new data comes up, I'm sorry, here, during that time when new data comes up, then that data has to either blocked or it will be lost, right? So now there is a need for 2 buffers, minimum 2 buffers. Okay, alternative is to use circular buffer. You must have studied this, right? There are 2 pointers in that, right? Write pointer, read pointer, and so on. Right? So, all right. Now the buffering is very interesting, right? You would have studied possibly buffering in case of layer 2 switches. Did you study that?
We have seen
Possibly
it for routers.
Routers you would have seen, right? So where do you do buffer in case of router? Where are the buffers?
So on the router.
Yeah, but where? There can be at
The-
many places. It can be in the router, right?
In the input-output part, like where it receives
Yeah, yeah. So now, is it always at input or output or at both places?
Sir, it's
Okay.
like a two-way channel, so you can receive or send from the same line.
Okay. All right. So it could be at many places, right? See, this buffer at receive port has got to be different from outgoing port. You cannot do bidirectional communication on one wire. Okay, it's only one directional. Now in fiber, for example, you get data only in one direction. You cannot get data on both directions. I mean, you can have. I mean, assuming that fiber contains only one wave. Okay, so if you have two waves, consider this as two fibers or two wires, and then we need different buffers. So usually output port buffers are different from input port buffers, right? Now the point here is that here in general in a system, you have to, if you're designing a system with buffers, you have to optimize performance with respect to buffers. But every time you buffer data, you introduce some delay. Okay, and if you have now, of course, the advantage is that packet loss or data loss is reduced, but at the same time there's an introduction of delay, so it has to be properly optimized. All right, there's a point I wanted to make. So buffering in general is used within OS, also within devices. Say for example, in hard disk. Okay, smart hard disk will also have a cache memory. What is a cache memory? Nothing but a buffer. Right? It's not visible to user, but for example, when user is writing a block into hard disk, then it can be there in the first. It can write to a cache. Okay, and then process can be unblocked, and then from that cache it can go to hard disk. Or you can, instead of reading one sector, you can read multiple sector into this cache, and then assuming that there will be sequential transfer, there will be more requests and which can be honored. So it can be very intelligent. Okay, now the more buffering we do, okay, it has to be optimized. There's a point, right? In case of smart disk, actually we are optimizing it in the benefit of user because it reduces time, but too much of buffering can also cause a lot of delays. All right, and then next is error reporting. Okay, so there has to be framework for error reporting. Okay, and this is device independent. So set of error reports can be there, that device not working or something like that, right? Okay, an error can happen in many ways. It could be programming error, for example, writing into keyboard, or trying to write a disk block that's damaged. Okay, trying to read from a device that's switched off, and corresponding error has to be handled. Who is going to handle this error? Is done by device. Specific errors are handled by device driver. Okay, so now that's fine. Okay, and then device can do a lot of things with it, right? I mean, for example, ignore the error, retry, or of course it cannot kill the process, but can inform OS about something, and then that particular process that's asking for something can also be killed, and so on. Or at least something that we always see is that the error code is passed on to user process. All right, and the next operation is allocating and releasing the dedicated devices. It means that if there is a printer and then multiple users want to use it for the printing. Okay, so but now only one can be at a time can use it. So somebody has to control that. Okay. So okay, so OS must examine requests, accept or reject it. Or possibly if we have, for example, a printer spooler, then that could be another mechanism. All right. So so there has to, so this software, which is device independent software, also has to do this activity. Okay, and fourth is, of course, this is with respect to this drive, right? So on top for the file system, we only see blocks. It's a logical block size, right? So the logical block size remains the same, whatever be the device underneath, whether what kind of hard disk or something that you have, even flash drive you have, it remains the same. Okay, so device independent software hides this. It provides the uniform block sizes to higher layers. So for example, device driver may pass on to this software a sector, one sector. Okay, and then this software may put multiple such sectors read from hard disk into and form a block, and then can transfer this block if required to upwards to user layer. Okay, all right. Okay, any question? Okay. And then we have already seen the use of libraries. The top layer. Okay, like IO library that we have. Lot of IO related things can be handled by library procedures. Okay. Say for example, we can run a spooler device for a printer. Now, if all the requests for say printing are coming through this layer, it means that printing this library provides instruction for printing, and user processor using that, then a spooler function can be created right in the library at user level. All right. So it may basically, if multiple processes are requesting to print the files, then many processes can be put into the queue, and then only the process in the head of the queue will be allowed to use the function. All right. All right. So this concept of spooling, right? This we have seen that there are multiple users want to print, and then we have spooler function somewhere. Okay, here possibly, and then it can run a process, and then or background process, and then can take up job from multiple such machines, and then only this spooler has access to the printer. All right. Okay, so this we have already studied in detail earlier. So this is the flow. So we have user process on top, and then whenever there is a request, that goes to device independent software, which does the things that we have discussed earlier, like blocking, buffering, and some other things, allocation, etc. Okay, that we have seen here. In general, these are the ones, and there could be many others also in new systems. Okay, and then it goes to device drivers, and then device driver in turn communicates, handles the device directly, so it interfaces with device controller, because device controller has registers, okay, that are that are used by device drivers, okay, and then result also moves upwards towards the user layer. Okay, so we can see this diagram as follows. Okay, so we have at user level we have request IO. Okay, from that there is a system call, because all IOs are handled through system call. And if the answer or result is already available, then it can be routed through this one. If not, then control goes to, or then these operations are performed. Send request to device driver and the block process if appropriate. So kernel may block the process that's asking for example, that wants to read a file, for example. Okay, and then it goes to device driver top half. Okay, so the process request issue command to controller, configure and send the commands, etc., etc., and then it blocks itself until gets interrupted. So basically it does all the conversion, etc., detailed operations, set it in the in the controller, and controller can start the operation, and it blocks itself, right? So this process gets blocked. OS blocks this process of device driver, and then the device hardware does the job. When device is complete, it interrupts the device driver. Now that's handled by lower half of the device driver. The device driver basically, when we say interrupt the device driver, it interrupts the OS, and OS now brings device driver into action. Okay, and device driver looks at the status and reads the data and so on. All right, and passes on to device driver top half. So it determines IO is completed, indicate state change, etc., etc. All these things are completed by device driver top half, and then it transfers the data or status, etc., to kernel, and from there it goes to user through a system call. Okay, all right. Any question?
Sir, where did this when we request IO, when
Hmm?
user process gets blocked now? When did this get blocked?
It may not, depending on the way OS works and what this request is. I mean, for example, a process may have asked for to print a page. There is no need to. I mean, when then what will happen? I mean, will it get blocked? May not blocked, depending on the way program is written. Or depending on the importance of the IO or what kind of IO is being done. If process is waiting for results, for example, a page is to be moved from hard disk to main memory, and process is waiting for it, I mean, then it will be blocked. There may be operation, IO operation, which may not require to block the process. Okay. Okay, all right. So if you don't have this software, kernel IO system and device driver, etc., then what does it mean? The system calls will be handled directly by device, software and device. It's not appropriate, right? It means that everything, the device will work in kernel mode. Wow. Okay. All right. So that's all for today. Any question?
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
It's not related to the topic taught today,
Yeah.
but for the presentation,
Just hold on. Just hold on.
yes, sir.
Just wait a minute.